Welcome to Bloody Good Horror.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric, and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be reviewing Jacob's Wife with a K. Don't forget, because I kept forgetting all day long. Joining me tonight, first up, maybe the last week ever from Maryland. He is the business manager at bloodygoodhorror.com. Please welcome John Schnars to the show.
If it's not the last week, something has gone horribly wrong.
You kind of look like you have scrubs on tonight. It's kind of weird.
It's
Oh, there we go.
collared
I
shirt,
see.
eh? Like
I see.
I was
Fancy
expecting
scrub.
other digs. You know, there's
Other
different
than
digs.
other than that, the hair's looking fire. Yeah, looks great. Next up on the show from Richmond, Virginia, please welcome Caitlin.
Hello.
And last up tonight from Indiana, please welcome Casey.
Hello.
Jacob's Wife, John, is our subject tonight. This is a horror movie starring Barbara Crampton and everyone's favorite schlub. Is schlub a fair way to describe it?
I think that's
Favorite dad bod, Larry Fessenden.
it's how his agent pitches him
Yeah.
around town.
For years now, I pretty much just thought that he was his character from Your Next in real life. Like, that's kind of my feeling of just what his whole vibe is. But this might replace it now. This might be who I think he is.
Yeah.
It's got another layer to it.
Yeah,
I actually felt like this is as straight a character as we've seen him play
Totally.
in a while.
agreed.
So,
Oh, yeah.
which was interesting, but yeah.
And his butt.
Did he
We
go?
saw his butt.
bottomless?
We saw his butt. Yeah.
I blacked out some of the Fessenden stuff. There was a lot of lingering on Larry Fessenden's.
He's got
Butt.
a Hank Hill butt a little bit.
Well, Eric texted today the teeth, and I was like, the teeth, the toothbrush.
Yeah,
Like,
I had
I was
the
like, did I
same.
miss that? And I was like, yes.
Yeah.
I blocked that out.
5
of my
minutes
brain.
into this movie, there's an extreme close-up of Larry Fessenden not only brushing his teeth, but just face covered in toothpaste like an animal. Like, I don't like mouths, John. I don't want to see people's mouths. I don't want to touch, like, no. Like, no, thank you.
I mean,
But do you think he was acting?
yeah. Larry Fessenden reads a script and he's like, he sends notes back like, guys, not enough gross shots of my body necessary.
I'm gonna need
yet
more
in this."
mouth and butt in this, please. Thank you very much.
So,
Those are my two in my rider.
I
It's
only
mouth and
signed
butt.
for a 2-cheek minimum.
Right.
God bless him. I mean, like he just.
I've been doing my glute workout, and the world's gonna see. All right, guys, let's do it. I guess let's jump in and review Jacob's Wife.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. Come to prime time. Main feature.
You know it's filled with words, John?
The Bible?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. Damn, bro, mind melt. I like it.
Yeah. That's
I don't
good.
know where to go from there because you just answered my question correctly. So, Larry Fessenden in this movie, a man of the Lord, you might say.
Minister, I believe.
What is a minister? I have a lot of questions. Like,
He wears the collar.
that's exactly
Well-
what I was gonna say. He wears the collar, but
Well, Lutherans wear the collars too.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, it depends what denomination you are. Like priests are Catholic, and then like
Yeah.
everybody else. I don't know.
I went to
exactly what the
Catholic
breakdown-
church growing up because my mother was Catholic, and like I did all that shit, like confirmation classes, all that crap.
Oh.
It's bullshit. And I used to get in trouble all the time, John, because I would talk back. Does that sound surprising to you?
You?
Yeah.
You?
One time in
No. In church?
second grade, in like not in church, but in like the religion class, they went around the room and asked us all like why we were there, and I told, not trying to be an asshole, just totally straight face, was like, "Oh, my mom makes me come here."
Yeah, like, but what did everybody else say?
Some
Like,
BS,
that's
some
the answer,
hot
isn't it?
bull crap, John, because that is the only answer as to why you're there as a second grader. Okay. But Casey reminded me when he said Lutheran. My father's family is Lutheran. My dad's not religious, so we never really did that. Except every year on Christmas Eve, we'd go to like midnight mass at the Lutheran church, and this shit always blew my mind, John. There were like women priests up there. The bread was like fluffy and delicious. It wasn't like this stupid Catholic like wafer thing they give you. Like
That's the body of Christ. You know.
they were singing songs. There was a huge Christmas tree. I just remember going there every year and being like, y'all are just on a different level, and I like it. I wish this is where I went.
I was baptized Lutheran. So
Really, it's
that
wild
was
style,
like the end
man.
of it for me, but you
Yeah.
know.
No, I went through the whole brainwashing course, and I came out all right on the other side, so I feel pretty good.
Did you have
about
to wear a frock of sorts, Eric? Like, are there pictures of you? Is what
No.
I'm getting at.
it. No, I never did like. Thank God, I was never like an altar boy or anything.
Did
Is
you just
that
ask
not
him if
fair?
he had a christening dress?
Is that not a thing? I don't.
No. You just went. I don't know. You just dress up in like a button-up shirt. I probably wore a clip-on tie or some BS at some point. That's probably about
I
it.
remember going to a friend's thing when I was really young, and she had like a I don't know, some
Then
kind
she
of dress, and I was like, what is happening?
Then she
But
probably
I
was
happy
like,
for
she
her.
was probably participating in the mass. I didn't do that. I'm not a participator so much, Caitlin. Like, I don't do extra credit. So there we are. There's my religious history, John. Is there anything else you'd
Yeah,
like
we
to
really
know?
nailed it down. Should we wrap? Or?
Yeah. Larry Fessenden, man of God in this movie. It's relevant, to the movie.
Yeah.
I'm going to need everyone else's religious history before we carry on here. John, please bring us the word of the day.
I would venture that was the most digressions in one word of the day transition we've ever had. So, congrats.
I don't know about that.
It's in the top 5. Today's word, Eric, is parable. That's Parable. A simple story used to illustrate a moral or spiritual lesson as told by Jesus in the Gospels.
Interesting. And why did you pick that for this movie, John?
Well, as you said, Jacob, of Jacob's Wife, the film, is a man of God. His wife, who Barbara Crampton, and whose name in the movie is Anne. They're like the minister and the minister's wife. It's a very religious household. There's a lot of like him scolding her, and I think she might even do it once or twice back to him for like blaspheming. I do remember someone accusing someone else of blaspheming at one point. But yeah, I mean, I think the other thing with this movie though, and we can talk about it as we get toward the end, it's there's a message. It's a little bit of, I almost went with allegory. It was unclear to me that like that's the appropriate term for this. So parable is a little bit of a cheat. But there's definitely, it works its way toward a message.
I love it.
Like Jesus did in the Bible. Eric is just to tie a bow on that for you.
Jesus, got it. Well, tell me about this movie, John.
Jacob's Wife. So as we mentioned, Larry Fessenden and Barbara Crampton. That's sort of the headline.
Mm-hmm.
This is directed by a gentleman whose first name Travis, last name I'm pulling up right now.
Well, he did, I believe, that movie called We Are Not Here, right? That also had
No. So Travis Stevens, second time feature director. His first feature is The Girl on the Third Floor. What you are thinking about, Eric, is the fact that he's produced a bunch of stuff.
Got it.
So he produced that We Are Not Here. He did.
I saw her mention that movie in an interview regards to him, so it must have been that they just worked together on it.
He did. I mean, I was looking at his credits earlier. Starry Eyes, I remember being on there. A bunch of interesting stuff. But yeah, I mean, he's a second time director. But as I said, Barbara Crampton one of the producers on the film. And also, I mean, it's her movie. I mean, Larry Fessenden gets a lot to do. He chews a lot of scenery, but she's the central character. The setup here is Anne is the minister's wife. They live this, pretty, one might say, boring, sort of small town minister wife type of existence. There's no children. And that is interrupted when I forget exactly. In the credits they refer to this. There's a vampire that they refer to as the Master, and this vampire shows up in town. We actually see the vampire take one of the parishioners who they had been interacting with. That's sort of like the setup. But Anne is like quickly drawn into the circle. Anne is pulled in at a point where she is considering an affair with a former lover. And so it sort of sets up this whole issue of her not being satisfied in their relationship or in her life in general. And now she is sort of transitioning into vampirehood. And that's basically the setup. I mean, the background is that you have this minister and the sort of religious overtones that brings with it. But a lot of the film is her wrestling with her needs, her hunger, him trying to figure out what's going on. There's some cops, like there's a little bit of feints, this way or that way about, what exactly who the vampire is or what but that's the setup. It's a relationship picture in a lot of ways, Eric.
It is.
Mm-hmm. So
I like your old timey use of the word picture. I like that. Caitlin, what'd you think?
I really liked this one. I really like women in Barbara Crampton's age bracket, and I know that a lot of times they're just sort of like.
Just like as a rule, you're like any woman between 55 and 70. I'm
love them.
Down for.
Well, I think that.
I know what you're saying.
Have you ever heard of the Red Hat Society? I feel like my grandmother is a member.
I just I don't know if you have those women in your life. I have, a lot of aunts in that age bracket, and before that, my grandmothers were there, and I'm really close with them, and I just really like. I don't know, when women get to be that age and we explore this in the movie, like Barbara Crampton feels, I don't know, a lot of women that age describe feeling kind of invisible. For a long time, women are usually for the worst, like objectified and sort of, on guard all the time. And then at a certain point, you start to feel like I'm invisible. I don't know what my role is anymore. I don't know what my purpose is anymore. But in the same regard, it's kind of freeing because you have this opportunity to be like, I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that means they turn into Karens, but sometimes I guess that means they turn into vampires.
Right. And all that stuff you're talking about is woven really deeply into this whole script here.
Yeah. She doesn't really have a voice at the beginning. And, it takes this sort of monstrous transformation to get her to sort of explore some of those avenues. But I really like the way that we see that happen. She gets to explore some things. She gets to explore hunger. I'll never not love a horror movie where a woman is like exploring hunger. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't know. It was really cool. I really liked it. She did a great job. The vampire design was fun, harkened back to more like Nosferatu style vampires. And our timing was good here because CM Punk had his return to wrestling last weekend,
dude,
as I understand.
It's so weird because I'm not a big wrestling guy, but I recognize that dude. And you said he was in the movie, and it just went right. I didn't even see him. Went right over my head.
Well, he's decked out in police gear and has long sleeves on, so it's like you don't see the trademark tattoos and things like that. But it was cool to kind of have our watch with this synchronize with his return.
But to CM Punk's credit, he kind of blended in really well into that role, so he's getting better.
Because he's in the director's other film. Isn't he one of the main characters? The girl, I didn't see this girl on the third floor or whatever. But
so fun fact for John, because maybe John's aware. I don't know how much John's on the internet. He just returned to wrestling for the first time.
To
in
AEW.
Years. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like Saturday or this
Yeah.
past weekend. Yeah.
Money. They found the right amount of money, and he was like, "Cool," as he should.
Who could fault him?
No.
Yeah.
Casey, what'd you think of this?
I ended up liking this a lot. I'm a big Barbara Crampton fan from back in the day, and Larry Fessenden's always done some good B movies, so I've been a long time fan of him. So I was here primarily for those two and the vampire stuff, that the way they played with the mythos, stuff like that, I thought was fun, and they handled it pretty well. And it was enough that it didn't make you think, oh, what the hell are they thinking with vampires? But he twisted it up a little bit to make it, this film's own kind of formula for vampires, which was cool. Barbara was really great, and I was really sucked into the whole kind of relationship story between her and Larry Fessenden watching this, and she did a really good job. She came across as really sad, kind of bored. You could kind of read everything her character is feeling on her face, and then once we get the big reveal after she gets turned the first time, and I think it was in the supermarket as she's walking down there, and I thought that was a really iconic scene to pair around her second coming, and it was really effective, and I think she kind of owned it from there on out. Larry Fessenden was chewing scenery left and right, but that's kind of what he was there for. He had to be the straight man kind of to her going off the rails, and I think they really worked well together, so I was kind of into it, and everybody else did pretty good. I enjoyed the vampire stuff the most, though. Like, the master looked cool, and I like that it's not the traditional route for some kind of master vampire. They took a nice angle with that, and it was cool to see the lady that plays the nun get some more work. So
Well, what's interesting about it is that it's like a Nosferatu visual vampire, but with the elements mixed in of like the kind of like sexual. I mean, even though they sort of flip the script on that stuff, like there is an element of like seduction sort of that is like mixed in with it. That is just interesting to also be there with this like rat looking thing, like that's more of the Nosferatu vein. They kind of
really
blended. It felt like they blended different types of vampire like mythos into it, which I liked.
Well, and they did a good job with some kind of religious imagery and stuff and symbolism, I think, paired in there with Jacob and being the minister and stuff like that, because you could almost boil that down to like a Adam and Eve analogy too, with the master being the snake that's luring Eve into taking a bite of the apple, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
You got the fangs and everything. She hissed. Spot on.
I enjoy it. Yeah, I enjoy this movie a lot. It's pretty small, and you kind of have to know that going in. It's like a low budget thing. The scope is fairly small, but for all the reasons kind of said so far, I have been a big fan of like just watching this resurgence of Barbara Crampton's over the last few years, partially because like she's embraced horror, working in horror and horror fandom in what feels like a very genuine way. You know what I mean? I've seen people embrace that because it presents them opportunity, but I've seen some people embrace it kind of at arm's length. Whereas like, I follow her on social. I've read some of the stuff she's been writing and like Fangoria and stuff. And it's like, there's a real embracing, not just of these roles, but also just like what it means to be a horror fan, why people are into it and stuff like that. So I'm pretty like primed to just kind of be interested in projects she's doing anyway. And to Caitlin's point, like it's pretty obvious that she found this script. I guess it came out of like some kind of contest or something, and she really liked it and decided to kind of get behind it. She became a producer and helped get it made, and you can see why. Like it's clearly a role that is so like such a kind of meaty role for an actress, to Caitlin's point, of an age where like those roles are sometimes scarce. You know what I mean? Where you're not playing a mom or a grandmother or like something like that. You know what I mean? It's a really fascinating tone. It kind of rides the line between being this dramatic relationship movie, but it's also got a kind of a black comedy streak to it. Like there were a few genuine laughs that it got out of me for sure, but it's pretty good at kind of dialing it back after it does that. My favorite section of the film is probably the part right after she turns into a vampire and she starts pushing back against these sort of defined roles of what their relationship is, because I think that's like the best opportunity for both of them to do this sort of subtle acting together. Like in particular, I love the scene where he wakes up the next morning and his facial expressions, like he goes out into the kitchen and has not made him breakfast. And it's like you can see the gears turning, and it's like he's disappointed, but there's something in him that feels like I don't want to act like an asshole right now, so I'm just gonna like see what's going on. So he like saunters out in the living room. She's like power working out to some jazzercise thing, and he goes, hey, there's no breakfast, and she's like, I wasn't hungry, like real aggressive back at him, and he's like, okay, I'll pick something up on the way to work. But then this happens multiple times, and every time, like, his attempt at being civil kind of slips away, and then you sort of eventually see how he really feels, which is like, you should be cooking me breakfast. Whatever. But it's like that whole stretch to me was just really fascinating, both watching her embrace, start to feel this new life and energy, and how that was changing her attitude. I think where the movie really wins me over is that it really digs deep on what that means, like what it means when a person in a relationship like this sort of starts becoming a different person. Like it presents you an opportunity. You can go two different ways, and that's everyone's right who's ever made that decision. But like the movie doesn't just, make that a hard thing and now we're a vampire and it's like there's communication. Like it's like they're showing this real layout for what it looks like for two people to completely split apart and then try to come back together. And like there's even scenes where they're like talking trying to be kind of vulnerable with each other. It's not always easy for them to connect or whatever. I don't know.
Well,
it's not a simple answer. It's not black and white. It's not like
no. Well, she's offered several chances to kill him. Like
right
as a vampire, and she doesn't take them, right? And like, I agree with you. It's like,
and there's a version of this movie where that's where it goes, and I'm cool with it. But I sort of like that they took the road less traveled and try to be like more nuanced with it or something.
No, it's like we stick together.
Yeah.
I mean.
Right. And he is very much an asshole. Like, but I think it's like her character, given her own experiences, making the decision, like there's something there in that commitment that's important to her, and she remains to like explore it.
Yeah, I would say, do you want to know what I thought about the movie first and foremost?
Sure, John.
No.
Nope.
No, I mean, on that part about him being an asshole, he's not coded as like an asshole. Like he's not mean-spirited. They just live this like traditional.
They have roles. Like he is who he is,
yeah,
and she's accepted it, and she's slipped into her own role. Yeah.
Through our eyes, and through like anyone with any sort of progressive sensibilities eyes, it's like it seems antiquated and like, stifling to the point of, it's never like abusive though. Like he's not even like, there's no like verbal abuse. Like at no point does he yell at her, like present her as less than him. I mean. Not in in an aggressive way, but it's there, right? Like that's because that's like coded into
in
society and relationships of that generation. But yeah, I mean, like, so part of it is like he's coming to realize, like because he has an arc too of having to realize like he loves his wife and like he loves her even though she's a vampire, and like
right.
and he accepts the change. I mean, like that's ultimately what like. So I am probably like the least positive on this movie, but still pretty positive. Like I enjoyed this a lot. For me, the best parts are the comedy. Like I actually think it's like actually a funny movie. Like there's several. A lot of there's sort of like your traditional like gore sight gags. Like several different vampire bites someone on the neck and blood like explodes out of their neck.
These people should like get their blood pressure checked, because everyone who dies in this movie, it's like a fire hose of blood.
Yeah, I mean that shit just like that'll get me every time. Like I'm always there for that.
And it's sort of like a fun like respite from how serious like the emotional part of it can be.
Yeah, well, and look, like even Larry Fessenden, like as straight as he plays this. He's just, I mean, part of it's choices he makes as an actor or things that he brings physically to the screen. And part of it's just like what they do with him. Like when they have a 30-second shot of him brushing his teeth and it's like super tight on his mouth. I mean, that's all meant to be funny, or at least like meant to provide some levity to the situation.
Right.
I agree. Like I loved the vampire design. I will just put it out there. Like at one point I'm like, this vampire has a really high voice. Like, what are they doing with his voice? And then I was like, oh, It's a lady vampire. Like,
Well, I'd be
Well, it's
curious.
coded super androgynous. Like the
Yes.
master is
totally.
super old, and it's like this is like a master pre-gender, pre-history, like
Yeah,
super old
totally.
vampire. It's cool.
I didn't
but
put it
then
together until the final scene. I'm not sure when you're meant to, but only putting it together in that finale was like felt like a really great kind of twist because I was like,
Well,
oh, I get it. Like,
yeah, I mean, it
Yeah.
also like tees up the like, I wouldn't say like it wasn't heavy-handed in a, put it this way, I will use the word heavy. Like the message is kind of like you're hit over the head a little bit with it right there at the end because the vampire has like a monologue that kind of delivered, but it was appropriate. And to your point, it comes at this moment where you're like, oh,
Right.
now I see
Yeah.
what's going on. And so I thought they landed it actually pretty effectively, like, all things considered. I will say, like, for a movie, it felt a little, there were times, like, this could have been tightened up a little bit to me. There was specifically, I would say, the second act.
Yes.
Like,
I agree.
after the piece, Eric, that you're describing, where she kind of has those initial transitions, they don't really seem to know.
It's
like, they have
about-
a hard time raising the tension.
And
Like,
it's
they have a
about
hard
halfway
time,
through the movie.
ramping to the, yeah.
It's about halfway through the movie where he finds out. Like they make a decision that he's going to find out not too deep in the movie. Yeah, and then that part kind of ramping into the finale is a little slow.
I do think that those were needed though. I mean, we could have had maybe a little bit more, could have been gone at a faster pace, but like the little things where he's like, it's in those moments where he's like, I do talk over you sometimes. I'm sorry I do that. And there's the moment where he's like, you are going to have to eat again. And there's like him helping her cover up a murder. So there's like the little moments of him, his character growing a little bit.
Yeah.
And then, by the end, he unfortunately takes away one of her major decisions and we're sort of not back at the beginning, but it's like, oh God, this sticking point in their relationship is still a sticking point. Despite the growth that both of them have,
right.
Well, even the way they time that and pace that out with that scene, because like you said, we're watching him grow throughout this whole movie. Then they have that great scene with Barbara and the Master, and the Master's, kind of explaining the rules. You could either have control of your hunger or ignore it, and then you're going to have to fight it all the time. Yada, yada, yada. And Larry Fessenden's laying there and she cut his throat. And Barbara's looking at him, going after him. And then she reaches over and kisses him. And you can see him click just like that. And he's like, I do love this lady. But then he gets up and takes her decisions away from her. And you're like, come on, dude. You know better. You grew.
I will go on record. And, you all can call me an asshole if you want. Barbara Crampton, I have a hard time with her carrying a movie to the extent she's asked to carry this. She does like admirably in a lot of scenes. And Caitlin, the point you made about like this is a great role. And like it's a good, like I'm like glad she as we mentioned, was a producer on the film. Like she found it or presumably helped find it, helped make this thing come together. So like good on her for doing it. And like I ultimately enjoyed it. There's just a couple moments where you're like, ooh, and it is what it is. Like, people who come to this with a like respect for what she's done in her career will be like pleasantly surprised or
Yeah, I was
happy.
pretty primed to
if
like
there are
it.
genre fans who understand that, there aren't a lot of, because she went through that in her career after a certain point. Like there weren't any roles written for her. Yeah. And, they make that pretty clear. Like there are not a lot of roles in life that people ascribe to women of that age in general. And like you have that parallel with her career. And, I do think that this is definitely one for genre fans and one for Barbara Crampton fans. But that being said,
what is the Venn diagram? What's the Barbara Crampton part that's not genre fans? Like it's.
She
there's
was
like
on soap
four
operas.
people.
She was on soap operas for a
Was
while.
she
I
on
suppose
soap
there's
operas? Okay, I didn't
there
know
could
that.
be a
All right.
sliver. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes.
I think that was the thing that she was doing like late 80s, early 90s before she like stepped away from acting.
But I really do like. I think I mentioned in our email the scene where, and it's one of the initial transformation scenes. Like she gets blood, like bags of blood from the supermarket, which is a really fun sight gag. Like they're like, jittering in her cart as she rolls it across the pavement.
Yeah.
But she's rearranging her house and like putting chairs different places, and she's got this like super strength now, and she's like dancing with a lamp, and the curtains are drawn, and it's just like. I mean, she's chewing scenery there. It's just fun.
I'm
It's
watching
cool.
her dance with a lamp, and I'm like, that's a good way to trip yourself, lady. Like, you're gonna get wound up in that cord. Just be
Longest
careful.
cord on a lamp I've seen.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
No, I got distracted because I was just watching it, and basically every time they cut, it would like untangle itself. Because you can't just spin around with a lamp. That's not how that works. But no, I agree. That was a pretty fun scene, and then it ended pretty grossly.
well,
I thought she handled everything pretty well with what they were giving her to work with, because like I bought into like her emotional delivery anyways, of going through this transformation and kind of wrestling with the ideas of she could have the life she dreamt of versus the boring life that she was afraid she was getting tired of. I thought she handled that parts of it well. I didn't really see a problem with it myself.
I am picking nits, just to be
I know.
clear. I think too, I think helped. Like, I actually think the pairing of her and Larry Fessenden is genius. Because
yeah, for sure.
it allowed, like, he has such of a, I mean, and if anything, like we've mentioned a couple times, he plays this very straight, but even straight Larry Fessenden is still,
He's a goof.
it's like 10% off kilter. You're like, what is going on with this guy? But so it allows her, like, she seems normal by comparison.
Right.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, and the scenes that they're together, like some of their relationship scenes,
Mhm.
great. Like,
There's a lot of
yeah.
chemistry there. Yeah. It
Yeah.
did give me anxiety when she threw that cast iron right into the sink and then just put water on it. I was like, oh,
yeah,
I
was like, don't
God,
do that.
That's how you know she's a
Well, it was still
vampire.
hot.
That's how you know she's a vampire now, John. She don't give a F.
No,
Yeah.
no, true. I did not buy her like relationship with the other guy. Like it just, I don't know.
Well,
there was
it's a
some-
little
Tom.
like she doesn't like put. It's hard to tell where she's at in the beginning of that interaction because like she seems kind of like, all right, let's go in this abandoned thing we used to like apparently bang in because they make some reference to like how we used to hang out here. She's like,
How could I
okay,
forget is the word.
right? Like, but the way it's presented is like I just couldn't tell what I'm supposed to be sensing about how into
Yeah.
this she is. But maybe that's the point. Maybe that's the
Well,
point. She was
they
was
re-
playing with fire, but didn't want to like
They
admit
tee
it
it
to
up
herself.
a little bit because like she's looking in the vanity before she goes and she's got this lipstick on and she's like mouthing the words like Tom, and it's like you can tell. And I think that we get Fessenden over his newspaper being like, oh, you're meeting with Tom, who you used to date, and there's this like little sense of like, yeah, maybe I am, like this little sort of this like little smidgen of power that she has, and I feel like we see her toying the line at least.
The other issue I had with that scene, we are meant to believe that this gin mill, I believe that's what they called it, right? A gin mill.
Think so.
That structure was going to somehow be rehabbed to become like a historical monument. Like that's the idea, was that she was going there with him. He was going to be the architect that was going to transform that into some historic monument for the town. And then on the flip side, her husband, Larry Fessenden, is like super pissed because he's like, yeah, and you're going to destroy the history in the process. So like, it was the weirdest thing.
What
Like,
was
that
the other
building was
option?
A fucking like factory. It
Well,
was so
right.
weird.
The only other option was to leave an abandoned factory. I mean, I think that's just them signaling like he doesn't take what she's doing seriously.
No, totally. It was also just like I don't know. I mean, I'm sure the way it's written in the script versus they were like, we got to find somewhere to shoot this movie. Like, do they have any weird buildings around? Like, yeah, all right, this one,
Right.
cool. Or it was just an exterior anyway, and the rest of it's shot on a soundstage. I mean, it was but it was
should have
just
called the Spiral folks. I got
Yeah.
plenty of warehouses.
Yeah. It was just so weird. Like that's the type of stuff that's not necessarily played for laughs, but it's so like almost disorienting in the movie. It's weird.
If I had to pick a nit as far as like the writing with this movie goes, I think there was a couple times in this movie that there's people that Barbara was interacting with and they had said something specifically like, yeah, we were surprised that you ended up with Jacob, or we were surprised that you married Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a weird thing to put in there considering that we're supposed to have a big challenge. And it is kind of a nice, it's like, oh yeah, so they haven't been right from the start. But I think it probably would have, even if it was an extra 5 to 10 minutes somewhere at the beginning to stretch out kind of that history, or maybe in the intro credits or something to kind of show kind of why everybody was surprised. I think add more to that balance between her and him and the relationship they're struggling with.
She does say, like, he's a good man, and that when, her mother, I think, had died right after she broke up with Tom, and, Jacob was there for her, the church was there for her. So, like, we get it, but we don't see it. We just kind of hear it.
And it's pretty thin as far as, like, hanging relation. Like, she's been in this relationship for 30 years. I think she mentions, like, 28 years or something at some point. It just, I agree. Like, I thought the way it was handled was decent, because it's not like an exposition dump. It comes in dialogue. It kind of comes in the flow of conversation, but it feels thin. Like, oh, cool. He was, like, nice to you when your mom died. And so you are, like, going to be loyal to a 28-year relationship, which, like, I guess relationships have been built on less than that. But she also seems, like, super unhappy. It's not like,
John, you're forgetting this is also a Jesus relationship. They hit different.
But the whole point, as Casey's saying, is, like, she wasn't religious. That's, like, what the Tom guy is saying. So it's like she also converts for him.
Yeah, I kind of forgot they like pay lip service. That's right.
Yeah.
And again, I'm just picking it like John was too. I mean, it's hard to pick out something to kind of deconstruct in here, and that those moments in that script writing are among the weakest. It's not like it's a huge consequence.
It's a super interesting choice to not have him just be the vampire dude. Like, nope, he's gone later. You've served
the what?
The vampire. Like
who? Jacob?
The lover man.
Oh, Tom.
No, well, but Eric, so it's funny because in retrospect it makes sense because it's a lady vampire and like she's
totally. I'm just saying.
But at the time, like it was, you're like, why? Because the way he gets got is pretty grim.
Sir, you came, you were handsome, and now you're leaving.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
We haven't talked yet about, and correct me if I'm wrong, but do fingers go into her neck wound at some point?
Dude, you know who that guy is? She does. She does.
She does it.
She does.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh.
It's a little.
Yeah.
We don't have to go too far into it. Anyway, Eric,
No,
who's
go ahead. What was the word you were gonna use, Caitlin?
No, I mean Casey teed some of this up, but because the vampire stuff here is like this weird, just like mix and mash of like all kinds of different vampire. I liked that the neck holes didn't go away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like I like that. And then I also like, although it's ridiculous, that they have like rat teeth, which are more like the Nosferatu teeth, if I remember.
Yeah.
But they're so ridiculous. And she goes to the dentist at one point. Again, absurd sequence. And the dentist
that was
like,
a cool scene. The UV light.
I forgot about. Yeah. Well, but the part of that that's so weird is like the dentist is like, oh, you have more teeth coming in. It's just like the two pointy teeth.
Yeah, and she says sometimes that happens.
Yeah, it's like, what are you talking about?
I love that sequence though. It's so funny. And like when the UV light turns on, I was like, oh no. And then like her face bursts into flames.
They do play a little fast and loose where it's like, so the UV light burns her, but like she's walking around in the sun, no problem.
And she was sitting in front of an open window with the sun, watching the sunset when they did the UV treatment.
Different rules,
No, I know that it is a little, they're kind of all over the place.
And you notice they also had to have wooden stakes, but it didn't have to be in the heart.
Well, and also like we get rats here, not bats. It's just a little bit different. But
rats are fairly common from Dracula too, I think.
Yeah, they're coming from like historical literature vampires, but not so much in like horror landscape. True. But I don't know, it was cool. I liked the design and sort of the rules.
And I was there for the finger in the neck situation. That's
fun. The fingering the puncture wound. Yeah, that was something. I did not expect it.
No.
I think they call that a metaphor, Caitlin.
Yeah.
I thought they did a good job with like makeup and effects in here too. I mean, like we said, the master looked great, and watching that lady who played the nun, whose name is escaping me at the moment,
Bonnie Aarons.
Yeah, watching her deliver that monologue, talking around those teeth, is an impressive feat.
Yeah, it's funny, John. I had the same reaction you did too. It was like, boy, that's a weird voice, and then didn't put any more thought into it until the end of the movie.
Yeah.
I also love the haircut. Barbara gets a haircut. Anne, excuse me. She has this sort of like mousy long, like holding on to youth type of
Church lady,
longer hair,
yeah.
and then she does like a harsh, severe bob where she cuts it a little bit shorter, and then
Looking
has like
pretty
those
good.
scarves around her neck to like hide the puncture wounds. I was like, oh,
Looks pretty
go
good.
ahead.
Yeah.
You were thinking about, hey, I should head to the what do they call the barber, the stylist,
Power
Can we all agree
power
that
choker.
The barber, the
Crimson-
lady barber.
the lady
Yeah.
barber?
Can we all agree that crimson red is a great color for Barbara Crampton?
Yes.
She looked
yeah.
great. That
No,
scene
you
with
just-
the waiter where she's like, staring at him and kind of like commanding him.
You go to the
is
barber and you're
cool.
like, I'm like looking for the look. It's like I was kind of repressed in my marriage, and now, but now I'm a vampire, and like I just bought blood from the grocery store, and like
Give me the Barbara.
yeah, give me that look, whatever that is. Reclaiming my womanhood through vampirism. What does that look like?
Listen, hair is an important part of that.
Believe
Yeah.
me, I know. All right, guys. Would you recommend Jacob's wife, Caitlin,
Yes.
Casey,
Yeah, totes.
John?
I think I'm gonna go yes too.
Ooh, there you go. I'm also gonna say yes. 4 thumbs up from the BGH crew. It's on Shudder now. Jacob's wife. Check it out. Let's take a quick break and do some fan mail.
He's a man obsessed with having the perfect family.
I'll do anything I can do to keep my family together.
But his obsession hides a deadly secret.
Never talk about your past.
We don't have a single lead. The guy is smart. We won't have anything to go on unless he does it again.
All we need is a little order around here.
Shelley Hack and Terry O'Quinn
You're a very bad girl.
in a thrilling tale of suspense. The Stepfather.
Tuesday at 8 on KST Washington.
Hi, this is Doc Broccoli Pinhead from the Hellraiser movies, welcoming you to Bloody Good Horror.
Send feedback to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or on Twitter using hashtag AskBGH. Join Patreon to get back episodes and much more. Patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror.
And we're back. John Schnars,
Yes, Eric.
housekeeping. First up,
Yeah.
important note, John. We now have show notes. Mr. Casey here. This is a long requested feature, John, because I know a lot of people don't like to listen to the whole show if they haven't seen the movie, but may want to just catch up with us, John, listen to some fan mail. So we're going to put notes in there every week now that tell you the review start and the review end. So you can just fully skip it if you'd like to.
Because Lord knows we could spoil at any moment.
That's true.
Yes.
No promises about what happens in fan mail, but you know what I mean. So check that out. You can just look at your show notes there on your app, and it's right there. We had it starting last week. John, by popular request, it is returning this year. The hashtag BGH 5K. It is going to be the weekend of October 15th. So basically what you do is it's a virtual 5K. You don't have to enter. All you do is go to a 5K that weekend. It doesn't have to be, it can be running, it can be walking, it can be crab walking, John. I don't really care. You could do it on
That would be harder than regular walking.
you could do it on
Crawling?
you could do it on a
Crawling.
bike. I don't care if you want to do it on a bike, John.
No bike. Come
Just
on.
let me know. Just let us know so we don't think you're
You
like
do
some
an
kind of
electric
superhuman
scooter,
freak.
I-
But the point being that like there's no, it can be any time during the weekend. You can start on Friday if you want. Just use your whatever running app you use to record stuff and send it in. We'll share it on socials. Lots of love. We may try to do, the medals might be tough this year. We may try to do something for the winner. We are still formulating that, but we wanted to let people know that we're definitely on to do it. So you get back
non-BGH winner, because if anyone beats me, I will send them a personal gift.
get back to training, John.
Listen to this guy.
If someone beats you,
Throwing down
John,
the gauntlet.
John, if somebody beats you, will you commit to sending them a lock of your golden flaxen hair?
Do they want that?
I do.
I mean,
Spoiler alert, I'm going
if
to ride
someone beats me, I'll send Eric a lock of my hair.
Listen, I'm going to beat you on a bike, okay?
No.
I think it might still be close.
A horse is a bike that pedals itself, Eric.
That is
If Eric
true.
rode a horse, he would definitely break a bone like in his pelvis.
Yeah, I wouldn't even have to get thrown off. Yeah, just being jostled around that much wouldn't
Yeah,
be good.
exactly.
Okay, other thing, John, we wanted to announce, there have been questions about this. Last year, we did this thing in, I was going to say in COVID times, but I think it might still be COVID times, John. We did a Halloween Zoom meetup for patrons only. There was like 40 people there or something. We did a costume contest. We kind of did like meet and greet, kind of got to know people. And then we did John Shelton, the homeless professor of BGH, did just some like insanely epic trivia. That was a shit ton of fun. We are going to do that again this year. That's going to happen. We believe it's going to be the weekend of October 23rd, probably Saturday night. Last year, I think we started like 9:00 Eastern time. So yeah, so put that in your calendars. To get that link, you have to be a BGH patron of any ilk. So we'd love to have you. It was a ton of fun.
I remember 30% of it.
John was very drunk. I was sober. So I can attest to the fact that it was fun. The best part of the night was on Sheldon's Trivia, he made a video of like people dancing in horror films, and it was all really quickly cut, and you had to name as many of the movies as you could. You watched it for 30 seconds or something, then you had to name all the movies. It was so much fun.
The costumes were actually really, really good, to be clear.
I won a prize for my costume.
There were amazing costumes, yeah.
Yeah.
I, for people who don't remember, was dressed as one John Schnars.
Yeah. Tip of the hat.
This year I'm gonna have to figure out how to dress as Pandemic Schnars. It's different.
Just buy a wig. I mean, it's not
Yeah,
that
I
hard.
didn't get the wig last year. I might need to get it. I might need to happen this year. So there you are. October 23rd. Join Patreon for more. Casey, do we have anything on the Twitters tonight?
We only have a couple tweets tonight, but let's get into them here. First up, we have from a listener overseas, and that is at that Neil Martin. Evening. It's been a while since I've done this, so if you were here in London, what would your top 3 must-see films at Fright Fest be this year?
Man, this guy asked this question, and I was like, I went and looked at the list. I've heard of one of those movies, and it's demonic. You, sir, are going to want to look up a podcast called Films at First Sight that Caitlin is also on. These are people that are super smart and pay attention to these things, and will probably like Joe.
By people, we mean
Listen,
Joe Ferry, my co-host.
Joe 100% has a bunch of thoughts on Fright Fest, so I would hit him up. It's a good show.
I saw the trailer for Gaia,
Yeah.
which looks, oh boy. So I put that on my list, and Demonic I'm pretty excited about. If I had to pick one more, I would probably, just based on the names, I don't know, I'd probably go Slapface. You guys
I
see
did see
Slapface?
that name. Does
There's-
sound pretty good.
There's one here at the top that's just crabs with an exclamation point.
With an exclamation point.
Want some
Yeah, that
crabs?
could be interesting. Too.
Only if they say it
Yeah.
like that skit, though.
The only one on the list that I've heard of before this was Demonic, and then there's a new Nick Cage movie coming out, Prisoners of the Ghostland, that I saw is on the docket too. And I'm only know about that because just this past weekend they released a kick-ass poster for it.
Yeah.
So take a look for that.
I think it's like a crime. I may have seen the trailer for that. It's like but it's like not. It's like horror crime or something.
Yeah.
So pretty interesting.
Breaking news,
These
John.
look cool.
Elizabeth just texted me the perfect Pandemic Schnars wig. So
Oh,
I
nice.
think we're set up.
Getting problems getting solved.
It's a little Chris, looks like Chris Hemsworth as Thor a little bit, is probably what they were modeling this wig after, I would guess. There you go.
All right. Next up, we have longtime listener, longtime tweeter. We've got 2 tweets here coming up from @Robale. First up, it's 90+ degrees pretty much everywhere. Are y'all doing pumpkin spice yet?
I don't really do pumpkin spice, but I'm in the I'm in the mood.
I had 2 pumpkin the other day, which
Nice.
is pumpkin beer. I don't
Yeah,
even
that
know.
counts.
Yeah.
I'm in the mood despite the weather. Yeah,
It was hot.
was-
I was like, I don't know about this right now.
It was
But-
like 106 or 107 yesterday, and I was furious. But I'm not a big like pumpkin flavored person, but I am all about like the Target dollar spot. I picked up a prescription today, picked up one yesterday, and every time I go to Target, I'm looking at the dollar spot like Halloween, 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 Halloween.
I know there's a bunch of spirits around me, but only one of them is open. It's like 8 miles away, which here is kind of a haul. And I was just like, I'm gonna go. I need to get in there. It's kind of I just consider it self-care at this point, honestly, to just walk into one of those and stare at stuff for a while.
Five
don't
Below can hit it too.
Yeah, I think I have one of those near me. I just gotta find it.
I don't want to brag, but my daughter's interviewing at Spirit of Halloween tomorrow, so.
No big deal.
Casey's about to ball out on an employee
I was gonna
discount.
say, be careful, bro.
Hold on to your butts. Next up from Robel.
There's a
I
Five
figure
Below
we-
15 miles from here. might be worth it.
Five Below is a great place to buy ramen, just so if you're still living out your college dreams. It's my go-to.
Nice.
Another one from Robel. This is a hard-hitting question. Which character leaving Grey's Anatomy hit you the hardest?
Hashtag ask BGH.
Yep.
I watched that show the first couple seasons, but it's been too long.
Yeah. I think I would have to go with that TV Knight because he got outed in like the 3rd season or something, right? And I think that's about when I stopped.
I have not seen the show. I feel bad.
Oh, don't.
Is this not a Grey's Anatomy podcast?
No.
Great question, Robel. Great question.
I'm sorry, buddy.
We did have the Portuguese fan fiction people in our SBGH hashtag, though, so maybe Robel's fishing for some Grey's Anatomy friends out there.
There you go.
Bridging the gap like a true fan.
Yeah, making us international. Last up, we have another long-time listener, long-time tweeter, at Skizbot. Would you rather go gray, go bald, or join the prestigious club I'm in and do both?
I'm definitely going both. I wish I kind of had more gray. I like the gray, honestly.
Yeah, I've come to terms with my gray.
Yeah, I don't get. I think dudes always look way worse when they've obviously dyed their gray than if you just accept it. And I
Yeah.
feel the same way about.
don't dye it.
I really feel the same way about losing your hair. Like I wouldn't even tell. I'm not a big like shaved head proponent because most people just look real weird and greasy with a shaved head, and like I don't. Yeah, just let it.
You gotta figure out what you're doing with it.
You
Like,
gotta
have a plan.
pick
Yeah.
a lane and commit to it. But even if that lane is you want to look like Jack Nicholson in The Shining, then you fucking do it. The key is just to like do it with confidence. That's all. That's all that matters.
If you're thinking about a Jack Nicholson in The Shining look, like give me a call. Maybe we can
Oh,
have a
I
conversation.
think about it daily
Yeah.
I do. I feel like,
because it's legit what my dad looked like in the late 70s.
dudes with like the salt and pepper hair get a lot of love, and rightly so. It's a great look. But I love a bald dude. You guys know that one of
Wow.
my celeb crushes is Woody Harrelson. So like love
wait,
for all the bald dudes.
You're saying bald or like full, like bicked, or you just mean just bald in general?
Just bald in general. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
if you want to pick it, then you can. But like,
It's about
Love
the
for
it's
bald
about the
dudes.
confidence way more than what it looks like.
I watched Kingpin not that long ago, and like you're gonna have a hard time convincing me that's a good bald look for.
See the difference? Isn't that more like a comb over though?
He's got like 3 hairs.
Yeah. See, like that, but that
I
isn't
mean, I understand.
that
it's
isn't
a joke.
accepting it, John. That's trying to make something that isn't there.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
Yeah. They considered my nickname freshman year of high school in football was Pumpkinhead. I'm not shaving my head anymore.
Pumpkinhead.
And it was named that for good reason.
Jesus Christ. Kids are the worst. Oh my god.
I know.
my little brother has a ton of grays, and so does my youngest cousin. It's like for whatever reason, the younger folks in my family are going gray first.
Oh, my sister is like 30% gray, and I have not, knock on wood, or not really. I don't really care, but I haven't seen a gray hair yet. So
yeah, I'm like,
weird.
I wonder when it's gonna happen for me.
You sure about that, John?
I mean, yeah, I'm pretty
Well,
sure.
when you win a lock of his hair, Eric, you
I'm
can let
gonna
us
search
know.
Believe
it.
me, my wife Suzanne will tell me the second because she's been going great. Like, part of it I think is like she had to carry 3 kids, and that will take something out of you. So, she's keeping an eye. She's like ready. She's very excited for me to have a gray hair. It's
I
like,
can literally look at like extreme stressful periods of my life and be like, yeah, that's like when it happened. Like,
yeah.
this is how I know I take stress worse than you do, Schnars.
It just it passes through me is what it does.
That sounds incredible.
See, I mean,
it
mine's
does damage, but it ultimately goes through me.
See, but like my gray hair up here, I got this little bit of a stripe going. My mom had a stripe in the same area, and so did her grandma. So I think it's kind of cool.
Wild.
Like
Genetic
it.
stripe.
Skunk boy.
All right,
Yep.
is that it for Twitter there, Casey?
That is it.
Cool. I am the Instagram person now. I'm very much enjoying it. I went on a jag last night on my stories, Caitlin. I don't know if you were hopping in there, but I had some real good ones.
In your stories?
Well, no, in the
or
BGH.
to
The
you,
BGH
or-
stories. First up, are y'all going to do another Halloween Zoom party like last year? We sure are. Frank and
Yep.
Megan, get excited. Favorite De Palma flick, and why is it Blowout? I've never seen Blowout.
Blowout's
no,
good.
it's gonna be Carrie.
Yeah.
I'm a basic bitch, so my answer is Scarface. I'm sorry. It's just good. It's a good ass movie.
I mean, we're not saying it's bad, but
No, John, the internet
Yeah.
doesn't like it though.
yeah. Wow.
You're a beautiful creature free of the internet, and that's why you're so pure. But the internet's not a pure place.
Now, hold on. Just give me 1 second, because I gotta put. There's like one I'm forgetting that I wanna. I'm gonna call.
I'll
out.
admit though, I have not.
I don't
Like
know.
I prompted by this question. I looked up his oeuvre, and I have.
Yeah.
I'm not actually have not seen a lot of it.
Dress to Kill. That might be
Yeah.
my number one. That movie.
There was a time in the late 80s in middle school that I thought The Untouchables was like the coolest thing ever made.
I mean, Untouchables is an awesome movie as well.
Yeah.
It was. The last time I saw it was probably when I was in like middle school, though. So.
Yeah, exactly.
I need you guys to have more love for Carrie here, but okay.
I do love Carrie.
I mean, Carrie's also amazing. Yeah, like. Sorry, lady. Sisters? Is that
the new Halloween Kills score is out. Have you listened? If so, thoughts? So they actually released it like briefly on YouTube or something, and then it was like a brief window. So now you can, if you go to Spotify, you can just hear a track from it, and it's awesome.
Hell yeah.
Everything they do, it's a John Carpenter and his son, and so there's somebody else that works with them. It's really cool. Is it fair for me to say Spiral was one of the worst films ever made? What do you guys think?
I wouldn't say worst.
I believe I was a no,
I
and
think-
there were several yeses on this show,
No, I
and the
think-
record will
No,
show that.
dude, I think worst film ever made is probably a little harsh.
I mean, that's strong,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I'm not saying like. Yeah, it's probably not the worst ever made. We've seen a lot of bad stuff, so.
I was trying to explain it to some friends last night, and even explaining sort of the beginning and how Chris Rock fits into the role. Just it was a mess. But it was a fun episode.
So he does
It was a really
stand up
fun
for 10
episode.
minutes.
Yeah.
Should I get a vintage Friday the 13th or Halloween poster? I can't make my mind up. He may have already made it up by now, but what do you guys think?
Yes.
Yeah. They're both good. They're both good posters. I've owned them both at various times. I probably still do in a tube somewhere.
I say treat yourself and get both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. If you have got
I
the room.
have an original print Halloween 3 like theatrical poster that's real dope. You can like when they used to fold them, so it's got like all the creases in it. Yeah.
Didn't you buy that at Horror Hunt?
Probably. Yeah, that's always where I would get those. I also have an original A Town That Dreaded Sundown that's like oversized, that's like massive, and you wouldn't know where would you even put this thing, but it's amazing. I have
It's like wallpaper for
I
your
have
bedroom.
like
It's like, why not?
many amazing posters that I just am never in my
Once
life
you
gonna
turn
get.
towards the ceiling, Eric, you've got all the square footage you're not using.
That's true. Have you ever been to Camp Blood at the Mahoning Drive-In? It's a damn good time. This is the place that they just had the Joe Bob thing at. It's in PA. Had
I
you
don't
heard
know,
it? Have you heard of that place, John? Like being a PA native?
No. I mean, I like was looking it up when
It's
when we were talking about the Joe Bug.
It's a big ass state.
Yeah. PA, quite big.
It's very large. Yeah.
Quite big.
That's my beef. Is like all this stuff there. It looks cool. It sounds great. Pennsylvania is like deceptively far away from places like New York and Massachusetts. Like if you were looking at a map, you'd be like, "Oh, it's right there." Like that's a whole fucking day just to get
New
there.
York actually borders Pennsylvania.
Yeah, but not the part that I'm from, John.
Yeah, fair.
Now that after she wrote in on Twitter last week, all I can hear is Mary saying blood.
Blood.
Camp Blood. Are you gonna do demonic on the show soon?
I hope so.
Yeah, eventually.
Yeah.
We'll get. I mean, it's definitely getting in.
Yeah. It's on the list.
I'm
Are
gonna
you
die on
gonna
that hill.
see the Candyman in the theater this week? Yes, we are. John will not be.
Yeah.
John is moving back to. I know we've been saying this for weeks. You think he's a liar. Don't be
No.
nice to John. He's actually
is it.
moving to New York City.
Yeah, this will be my last show. As we
Is
said,
all
you
your
know.
stuff there?
Like 93%.
Is the apartment like set up and ready to go?
Yeah, it's close. I mean, we have to build the kids' beds. The kids have mattresses, but their beds are still in boxes. They got their like.
Are you doing any bunk beds? We sharing rooms here?
Yeah. The two girls are sharing a room.
They can't build their own beds. Snars.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
On a scale of 1 to
They
10,
would love to. if we
how
let them, but
how excited are your in-laws to see you guys go?
I think there's some mixed emotions. We'll see.
I'm gonna miss this background.
I mean, the house here is very nice. There's lots I'll miss, but it's not New York City, so.
Can patrons get like a video tour of their house before you go?
No.
Just to kind of get some context where you've been all these years. It's been
All
years,
these
right?
years. It's been 18 months.
Yeah, that's almost
Wow.
years.
So.
God damn,
Yeah.
what is life? Robale asks a disrespectful question. Who gets Joey King in the divorce? To which I replied, she's an adult, sir. No one gets her. She may continue to make her own decisions as an adult of legal age.
I don't know that she's gonna does she have a defender on the show? Is the real?
She seems cool. I don't know. She's fine.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah, that's true. She's done some wild stuff. So
this last one's a really good one. What film do you watch when you want to feel all? Oh, you know what? Totally screwed this up. I thought it just said feel all the feels. It's actually fall feels. Feel all the fall feels.
Oh.
Feels.
I thought it was just feels. To which my answer was American movie. That runs the gamut. Fall
Could
feels
work
though.
for fall too. It's a little more winter, I would say. American movie.
It spans all the seasons, John. Really.
Well, I know, but it's kind of got that winter vibe.
What do you got? Fall feelings.
Something
I know
wicked
it's-
this week comes.
That's a good one. Dude, I'd never seen that until it was your staff pick. That movie is so good.
I love that movie.
I'm still big on Hocus Pocus. I know that
That's
it's
a
a
good one, too.
bit played out, I suppose, at this point, but I sure do love it.
We watched that with the kids last year, and it was a lot of fun.
My answer is Halloween 4, specifically.
It's a good one.
It's got real great Halloween trick-or-treating atmosphere. The likes of which they didn't really do that well again until the new one.
I think this year for me it might be Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. I'm due for a rewatch.
I just watched that. Yeah, that's a really
Yeah.
good one too. None of it makes sense. It's like none of it.
No,
but I don't even mean. But people say like, oh, there's like Stonehenge and the mat. Like that's not even what I'm talking about. Tom Atkins, this like why they're shacking up, like they just none of it makes any sense. Like we're not even talking about Stonehenge.
It's Tom Atkins' animal magnetism.
Right.
I was gonna
the
say
answer to a lot of that.
That's what
Darcy's
you do with Tom Atkins is shack up.
He just looks
Darcy's
like
been on this sort of like Tom Atkins fucks kick, and I'm super here for it. I remember Chase and I watched Halloween 3 together, and the whole time I was like, Tom Atkins is so fucking hot, and Chase was like,
no,
please calm down.
He just
But
looks like
so good.
he just looks like he reeks of gin and cigarette smoke, and I can't get past that part of it.
Oh, gin, cigarette smoke, and Old Spice.
Yes,
he's
yes.
got-
Like but
But
that
he's
dude was
got-
chain smoking in the 80s.
he has like such an energy to him. Like he
Oh,
really, I mean,
Totally.
Oh yeah.
I don't
Also,
disagree with you, but I also
if you watch was it In Search of Darkness, the 80s horror doc, like he's so funny in that too, and like such a good
He's great in
sport.
it,
It's
yeah.
like you just like him even more, and I appreciate Darcy's sort of campaign to.
There's this whole thing in Halloween 3 where like, so they're ostensibly like they team up because her dad goes missing. Oh, and he was the doctor who treated. Her dad dies, and he was the doctor who treated him at the hospital. I think that's how they met. But the dad was killed because he was like learning about the fucking mask factory stuff with the, whatever. So they go on a road trip together. Okay, so then they like rent a motel room, and he's feigning like he's trying to be respectful, and he goes, he's like, I can sleep on the floor, or I can go sleep in the car, like that. And she gets all sheepish, and she goes, where do you want to sleep? And he goes, and then he like turns, like his whole body language changes, and he gives her this like fuck face, and he goes, ma'am, that's a stupid question. And then he just moves in and he kisses her, and then they're just banging. It's like, it is amazing. It's the kind of thing that will never happen in a movie again. And it was just fascinating. I can't forget that scene. It was amazing.
There's no better sort of advertisement for joining the Bloody Good Horror Patreon than watching Eric do some really important physical acting there and recreating the scenes. It was
that's
very
a
important,
stupid
the
question.
blocking there.
I want to stay in your bed because you're going to do it. He is a cool guy. I'll give you that. He's got moves.
Yeah.
Same thing with Jamie Lee Curtis in The Fog.
Yeah. Well, The Fog, another great movie. Could be on the fall movie watch list. Fall Fields.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of got to be like
a
near the water.
list.
That's a really good one too, John. I don't know if it's set in fall though, is it?
Yeah, it's more like a by the water type of movie. You're
I'm
right.
gonna look it up though because there is a date. It's a specific anniversary date.
Yeah.
Which while I'm doing that, John, I forgot to tell you it was the last question. So you take some time right now and orient yourself, okay?
Damn it. How dare you?
April 21st.
Oh, there you go.
So never mind.
Not fall. Sorry. That is when the fog comes, though, Eric. Remember, you know.
In April?
Just based on my fog knowledge.
Your fog degree. Hey, what's on your Tervis tumbler there, buddy?
A turtle.
A turtle.
Nice.
Turtle Tervis.
Yeah. We have like 50 Tervis cups in this house. So you have to like remember which,
I only drink out of things with lids on them almost exclusively now because I can't be trusted.
Like you and my children.
And it's got to be a really heavy vessel so that it's really difficult for me to knock it over.
I took my cousin's son out. I tutor them in reading, and I took one of them out for his reading rewards this past weekend, and we got one of those freak shakes, the places that put like a whole piece of cake on top of a milkshake.
Wow.
It's fun. But I did have us eat lunch first, and the waitress brought me a regular glass, and she brought him, because he's 8, a cup with a lid, and he took it off, and I was like, I think we're gonna have to put that back on. And he was like, I don't need it. And I was like, yes, we do.
Oh, that's a sensitive subject, Caitlin. They want to be adults.
Yeah.
I think he thought I wouldn't notice, but I was like, I see you.
I love it. Next week, Candy Man, directed by Nia DaCosta. It's in theaters only. I'm not loving that part of it, John. Why? I don't really buy this whole it's about the experience. Okay, you guys wanted more money, so they insisted on putting it on the theater. Let's not pretend what we're doing here. People are dying. It's okay to release it on demand.
Eric, as we're learning with this Black Widow situation, there's some contractual shit that is
also true.
All tied up here.
That's
but
not my
agree.
problem, John.
I totally agree.
Disney should just
probably will be seeing it on video because I will not be able to see it.
Disney should just pay people and then bring the movies to my house because I'm kind of done with the theater. But we're gonna do it for you, the
Hot,
listener.
spicy take.
I'm full of them today. John's gonna be out, so we're gonna bring on some guests. Probably, I don't know what that's gonna look like yet, but we shall figure it out.
You're welcome. I guess.
I'll miss you and your flaxen hair, John. It's my new word of the day. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed our episode on Jacob's wife. And we'll talk to you next week.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.